Okay, good morning. Jim Hudson, Operations Section Chief with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5 with your update for the South Zone. Up around Junction City, no fire growth. We continue to build depth and mop up and increase and really improve the black line that we already have in that area, and fall hazard trees to make the area safe. We added additional black line to our map down to Evans Bar. Dutch Creek continues to hold very well, which has been our primary fire line that we've been working off of for the better part of a week. As we work to the south in the Clem's Flat area, continue to build black line, mop up the spot fire from last week around Shake Ridge, really build depth in our mop up, and we haven't seen any fire growth in that area. Moving to the south, the spot fire from 72 hours ago in the Golden Gulch Lane area, crews went direct on that yesterday. We did not see any significant fire growth in that area. Crews will be aggressively mopping that up and improving the lines today. And moving towards the west, back towards the North Hayfork. Line continues to hold very nicely. Crews are building good depth, mopping up the interior and improving the lines there as well. We did have activity yesterday again in the Bean Gulch area. It did challenge our lines, and all of our resources and crews and engines were able to hold those lines and stop at the forward progression. A couple small spot fire slopovers came over the line, but went right after them and connected them back to our primary lines. We continue to build contingency line to the northwest of Hayfork, and then we are going to be bringing contingency line down to the south along the west of Hayfork and tying it back into the Tule Creek area in upcoming operational periods. So no significant fire growth yesterday. It did challenge our lines, but all the resources and crews did a great job to be able to maintain our primary lines and not have to fall back to any of the alternate lines. Thank you.
Good morning, Karen Scholl, Operations Section Chief with the Alaska Incident Management Team, here on Friday, August 27th for your operational update on the North Zone. Yesterday and overnight, crews continued to mop and patrol along the Underwood Mountain Road area, and everything is looking good and holding real nicely there. Up in the Burnt Ranch area, crews are familiarizing themselves with that community and just identifying where all the water handling equipment is. You know, as we get new crews in, they need to spend some time making sure they understand where everything's located. Up in the confluence of the Trinity and the New River, we did have a spot across the New River and north of the Trinity. Late in the afternoon yesterday, it was down low, and as you know, it's rocky, really steep rocky terrain in there. So they were able to fly buckets underneath helicopters and put quite a few buckets on there, and our heat indicators and infrared technology is not showing any heat there today. We do plan on putting some repellers in that area just to ensure that indeed the infrared technology information is correct, and then they will stay in there likely through the weekend just to ensure that any other spots that come across the New River they're able to get to and handle quickly. Also in the Big Creek area, we're continuing to assess that and open up the road in that area in the event that we receive the appropriate crews and resources to go in and try and hold the fire in that drainage. We were also running bucket ships on the south end as close to where Bell Flat is, just trying to hold it in the drainage there. And so that's happening today. We also have some equipment moving around on the big mountain road, just opening that up for access. And again, in case we get all the right tools that we need, there's a potential to hold it there or at least check the fire up on that northern side. Work continues in the Daly area, and crews will be moving up towards Denny, looking at structure protection assets and trying to develop a plan. We're waiting on some equipment, water handling equipment, before we can move up into Denny. Up on the Happy Camp Ridge, the main line, the main contingency line is in all the way to the top, equipment is turning around and coming back down and making that line better. So they're masticating on the way back, they're opening it up a little bit more, and so by the time they get out of there, it'll look a lot better than it does now. So initially we go in, turn around, bring everything back out. Down closer on Hoboken Ridge, and they continue to improve those dozer lines as well, and ensure that if anything should get established, they're able to respond in that area. In Trinity Village, likewise, most of the water handling equipment and the lines around Trinity Village are in. There's just some cleanup work and some improvements that they'll be working on, but for the most part, the majority of the work is done. Those resources are being freed up a little bit to help respond to smoke reports as we get them through the corridor area, as well as able to respond and surge to another part of the fire should we need additional resources somewhere else. Fire growth in the Big French Creek yesterday, we certainly had some to the north. Majority of it's just obviously burning up the fuels. It wasn't running quickly, but it did put up quite a large column yesterday. I had a little bit more growth to the north off of to the west of Manzanita Ridge, and then on Manzanita Ridge itself, the fire continues to move fairly slowly. Again, it's rolling downhill, and then making short uphill gains and runs, and that's the way this fire continues to progress. Most of the progression was to the north, but we did have a little bit of progression down towards the North Fork of the Trinity River. Infrared is telling us that it has not crossed the river in the last week or so. So we're still looking fairly good there, and this is buying us time to complete our preparations in the East Fork and up in the Hobo Gulch area. Most of the work is complete up there. They're testing their hose lays at the Hobo Gulch section and just ensuring everyone knows what they're doing, where they're going, and what the plan is. We do have a crew that has been brushing out the Waldorf Cutoff Trail. They're nearly down to the Trinity River, and then they'll be looking today if they can get any further and if that will buy them anything. This is primarily a check line. It's not a holding line or a holding feature, but it should be able to give our resources a place to go in and slow things down if we need to do that. Over east and north of Helena, crews will continue to improve the dozer lines and with mastication and widening it, and then improving the access up into that area. So we've got a surge of resources actually from CAL FIRE that'll be coming up and assisting in that area, as well as our own crews completing the hand lines complete, but now they're what we call buffing it out, making it better, just more improvements, wider snagging, all of those sorts of things. We've got dozers and a plan to push some additional dozer lines north and east of north and west of Weaverville. So continuing building check lines and contingency and alternate lines in that area. Yesterday we didn't assist too much down in Delta, but we are available to do that if requested. Over in our Zulu area, as we move back around towards the Patterson Ridge, patrol all through south of Big Bar. Everything that we've had blacklined is still holding. In Patterson Ridge, we checked up the fire yesterday on a check line that was put in. That just means we fired it and we're holding it. And fire has not progressed really too far to the west. It is in a drainage that does have ability for rollout and then for fire to come back up at the ridge. So we've got a new crew in here today that's replacing a previous crew, so they're going to be getting really familiar with that land and what it's going to take to try and hold fire on the ridge, south of the ridge, and really get familiar with that and be able to initiate the plan when we need to. Work is complete across the top and then down the Patterson Peak Trail. That's all been dozed, masticated, and snagged, and equipment and crews continue to work south, and then across back to the tie-in place at 9 Mile with CAL FIRE. Yesterday we didn't assist too much down in Delta, but we are available to do that if requested. Over in our Zulu area, as we move back around towards the Patterson Ridge, patrol all through south of Big Bar. Everything that we've had blacklined is still holding. Everything that we've had blacklined is still holding. So we've got a new crew in here today that's replacing a previous crew, so they're going to be getting really familiar with that land and what it's going to take to try and hold fire on the ridge, south of the ridge, and really get familiar with that and be able to initiate the plan when we need to. Work is complete across the top and then down the Patterson Peak Trail. That's all been dozed, masticated, and snagged, and equipment and crews continue to work south, and then across back to the tie-in place at 9 Mile with CAL FIRE. We've also have folks down in Hayfork Creek that are looking just to see if it's any kind of viable option to hold. As you know, that's a very steep canyon and with steep sides to it, and not very friendly for humans to be in there as far as trying to hold fire. But we're looking at any kind of options to do that if the conditions are correct and in our favor. We're also looking at the High and Palm Road to kind of come up with another plan there, an alternate plan. So we talked about this before. Our primary plan is where we feel we have the greatest chance of success, and then we have alternate plans that we're now looking at and seeing if we have the right tools, the right conditions at the right time, we can keep that the box a little bit smaller. So things that we're all looking for and looking at, and but we certainly recognize the importance to have our primary lines where we have the greatest chance of success. Work continues on infrastructure that's in the areas between High and Palm and Hayfork, Bar 7, Bar 717, Pasture Gulch, and other identified structures in there. They're getting some water handling equipment placed on it. And then just the tie-in point and being able to assist with CAL FIRE in the zone break area. So those are that's the update for today. We're expecting to be smoked out quite a bit today as the winds have come around from the north. So there's potential for limited aircraft ability to get in and support our operations. But again, when we have that smoke laying over, we have a little bit more subdued fire behavior. So we keep talking about that. You know, the fire breathes, and we get aircraft, but it also means that the fire is being more active and harder to control. So we do invite kind of the smoke. It's not the worst thing. It does buy us time to continue with our plans, getting everything in place. Just wanted to talk this morning a little bit about some of the tools that we use out on the fire line and in our environment. We talk about resources a lot. I talk about resources. Everybody talks about resources. What does that mean? To us, everything that's moving and operating out in the fire environment is a resource. So we have crews, and we have different types of crews. We've got hotshot crews, and we have type 2 crews. The difference being that the hotshot crews work together for a long period of time, at least like 6 months. They have a higher level of training and a higher level of experience and a higher, basically, ability to produce work. They can go in terrain that's more difficult and into environments, and we're asking them to do the more technically challenging parts of the job. We have some type 2 crews out here, and they're responsible most of the time for helping to buff out or build line in more appropriate kind of terrain, meaning a little bit less steep and a little bit less technical. They also come in behind hot shots and help hold the line. So if we're firing, the hot shots will be doing the firing and the initial holding of an area, and then type 2 crews generally come in behind and hold the line, chasing spots, doing mop up, doing the really important. Every job is important, but if we don't have holders, we can't progress with our burn. Other tools that we're using out here, engine crews of different sorts and sizes. So we type them out to type 3, 4, and 6 are the ones that are most useful for us in the wildland side. And down in the communities, oftentimes you'll see much bigger type 1 and type 2 assets. Those are kind of the big red trucks, and they're more structure for structure defense. We use a little bit smaller, more nimble. They can get on the roads, the dirt roads, and follow or lead firing operations. We use those crews also. We pull them off the trucks, and they're oftentimes the ones that are setting up your structure protection in the areas. Other tools that we have out here, we've got dozers, we've got masticators. So dozers are pushing line or opening it up. Masticators are chopping that brush up so it's not in the way and it's less likely to catch fire if we get, it's just much easier to deal with than just having brush stacked up on one side of the line. So those are really important tools. We have water tenders of different sizes that are providing water both to the engines, to our mobile retardant plant, They're also filling up the water tanks that we have placed around areas where it's a long distance to go get water. So we'll set up a porta tank with 1,200 gallons. We'll set up multiples of those in a certain location. The water tenders just go back and forth from the water source, filling that up. The engines can pull off of it, or these hose lays that we have out there will pull off those water tanks. Other tools that we're utilizing out here, we have a few ground-based smoke jumpers. So their level of fitness and expertise, we can insert them into some more dangerous or possibly more dangerous terrain to provide good intelligence. So they're up in the Bell Flat and Big Creek area. And then we also have at for our use, a rappel crew. They are part of the lineup with our helicopter lineup, so we've got quite a few, and so the rappellers can be used for special missions. And the special mission that we're putting them on today is potentially inserting them where the spot fire was at the confluence, in order to ensure that we don't get if we get any other spots and embers across, that they can respond to that. So inserting them underneath a helicopter, they rappel out of the helicopter with their gear. They'll stay overnight for a couple of nights, and that's the plan for today with them. We'll see if we can get the visibility to actually do that. So when we talk about resources and we're moving resources around the fire, those are the types of things that we're doing, and we're really focusing on trying to put the right resource in the right place at the right time, because we don't have enough of any of it. So if this was a normal year and we had all the resources we wanted, we'd be seeing black line on this probably a lot quicker than we are now. But because we have a limited amount of resources, we identify who is needed and where they're needed and when they're needed, and we try and put them in those places specifically for specific jobs. So that's your update for today. Thanks for your continued support. Have a great day.